calling back. We're going to try to give her a call again, and then she just added another phone number to the 13-year-old grandson who's possibly with the daughter. Step out with this.
2412.
Veteran crisis hotline's calling in, so they have a female veteran off her medication. She's over at the safe haven. Detective 12, take a check that one out.
6-1 bullet, 2-1 star, take your shots.
Officer still stands for talk? No. Offender in custody? Thanks. Anyone else close? Wait till she runs out. Let me know. First number. 10-4.
6-1 bullet, 2-1 star, take your shots.
Officer still stands for talk? No. Offender in custody? Thanks. Anyone else close? Wait till she runs out. Let me know. 10-5.
33. I'm going to supervisor know the application for it.
3746. I'm sorry, we're not copying you. Try it one more
Good morning, everybody. Why is it always whenever you're supposed to go on the mic, all of a sudden sinus issues, sneeze attack? Excuse me. So I'm sorry if I sound stuffy again. Gotta love the sinuses. Good morning. It's gonna be a tough subject. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with Ellen Greenberg and her case. It's a very tough one. It's kind of like Micah's, when you're talking about certain topics, and maybe they didn't happen, right? What we feel in Micah's case that she didn't do that to herself, and when we're going to get into this case, it was also ruled that Ellen did this to herself. But when you look at all the injuries and you just sit there and you wonder, it kind of brings you back to Stephen Smith when we covered Stephen Smith a couple years ago and how that was ruled something crazy. But the evidence just didn't want to make you be quiet, There's been a lot of people that have reached out to me over the last year asking me to cover Ellen's case. And I thought with the trial selection, or I should say jury selection, starting today, and, we've kind of been able to do some of these other cases. I've been working on this case. It's one of the cases I've been working on for a long time. I just never did a show on it. And so we're going to be doing a show on it today. And we're going to be starting to do shows on it. Like I said, jury selection has started today. And there's going to be a trial soon. And, when you get into this, if you don't know about Ellen's case, when you get into it, you start to, it doesn't take long. The pictures of the injuries, okay? It doesn't take long. And this is why it never made sense. As soon as you see the pictures of your injuries, you're like, how? Seriously, you're gonna go, how? 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 And so, I'm gonna read an article for you first with the major developments in the case. It's going to be very interesting because, um, even uh, Birchmore, that kind of weird situation. Um, there's gonna be some people that are gonna have to answer some questions, when it comes to these shoddy investigations. This is supposed to be about the victims' families and communities. And for some reason, sometimes the people that we think are there for the right reasons, unfortunately, they're not. And, when it comes to the medical examiner reversing, it always takes one person to step up. And I'm glad the medical examiner came out and said, this should actually be ruled something other than what it was ruled. And because of that, uh, they're able to. So, if you don't know her case, um, it can be triggering. It is graphic. So just as a heads up, it's very hard. It's very hard to hear the things that were done, and it's really hard to hear how it was ultimately ruled a self-unaliving. And with all that sadness and trauma, there's going to be some good things, hopefully. And I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. But you never know. Nothing is 100%. But hopefully the right thing will happen for Ellen, because it's been way too long. This took place in 2011. In 2011, this took place. 14 years later, this is, justice is finally happening. So I just want to give you a heads up. This is going to be showing during certain times. It's going to be, like I said, I'm going to, all I have to do is show you a photo. I mean, all right. So remember, this was ruled a self-unaliving, okay? And this is triggering. This was ruled a self-unaliving. Those are all the wounds. I don't know how that is self-unaliving. Like I said, when you first see the pictures of the injuries, you're like, there's no way. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to be covering the trial. Hopefully, I'm sure cameras will be in there, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot. It's going to be, like I said, when you see those pictures, this poor soul, when you see those pictures, and the family too, and since 2011, they've had to sit there and, when I talk about Sebastian and I'm like, the last scene and how it's important and how that family in the middle of Montana has got to accept the BS that's being put out to them by the people that are supposed to be the ones ultimately that are supposed to bring justice to their loved ones, and they have to sit there and take it. This family has had to sit here for 14 years, almost 14 years. They've had to sit there and accept that it was ruled a self-unaliving, when literally I just showed you the photos, and you can, I mean, how do you, how? That's what I'm talking. That's why this is so important when it really comes to, you know, the people that are supposed to be making sure that there's justice for our loved ones. And this is what's taken place. I want to say contribution call out to Kimberly O. Thank you so much for the Cash App. I appreciate that, and thank you for the support. And I want to say thank you all for being a part of the community. Detective number 1, damn it, 12 a.m. Detective. Kib Kitty, what's up? Number 2, Danny. Number 4, Hide and Seek. Number 5, Beach Bell. Number 11, your pick at the end of last, huh? My pick at the end of last video. Oh no, I'm sorry. I literally just woke up like right before I started the show, so I need more coffee. Face above his name. Oh, you mean the judge pick during the court? Okay. Yeah, I did that for fun. I saw this one thing where they I know you can do it on Zoom. I need to try and see if I can get Zoom, cuz it was so cool because what was I? What was I? I can't remember. This was so long ago. But it was like you're a different, like you're a cartoon character or something. I was like, man, that'd be sweet to be able to have, for the camera, have the cartoon stuff, I'd like to do that where I'm a cartoon on here, even though it's really me. It's just the way it's present, the filter or whatever. What's up, Aaliyah? Oh, prayers hide and seek. It's tough, I'm telling you. Even to try and move somewhere, uh, it just all went to shh. So prayers. Aw, prayers to you. Aunt Clara. Exactly, the POS. And thank you, Aunt Clara. Thank you, Beach Bell. I mean, like I said, it's been something. I told you guys, there's a lot of stuff that I work on every single day. I don't do shows on it. So, but this is one, after this came out, the trial's going to start. I think the awareness needs to be brought because this is so, yeah, exactly. Right? It's so sad. It's so sad. All right, so this is what took place here. The major developments. This came out yesterday. Oh, Aunt Clara, trust me. Weirdy got hit pretty good. That's why we got Rumble up there. By the way, guys, there'll be a Rumble link dropping throughout the show in the chat from Nightbot. There's a reason I got Rumble up there now and have for a while. I'm still just learning it while I'm trying to do all this stuff and all the work. But I am going to be live streaming there soon too because of the freedom of speech. So I will be doing some Rumble videos where I won't be broadcasting over here because I'll be able to have freedom of speech. So, and yes, just be aware. You know how it goes when you're trying to bring attention. But this was from yesterday, 1:57 p.m. Medical examiner reverses self-unaliving ruling in 2011, passing a Philadelphia teacher, Ellen Greenberg. And we'll play that video in a second. A medical examiner who said the 2011 passing of the Philadelphia teacher found with 20 stab wounds was self-induced. Then reversed himself. First, he said it was a homicide, then reversed himself to say it was self-unaliving. Now admits the case is something other than the self-unaliving, these perfume ads and stuff. Okay. More than a decade, the family of Ellen Greenberg, 27, has fought to overturn the city's medical examiner's ruling that the passing of their daughter, whose body was found riddled with wounds, including 10 to the back of her head and neck, was self-unaliving. Again, how do you even get there? I don't understand. Philadelphia medical examiner Marlon Osborne, which we're going to go into those documents here in a second, initially ruled Greenberg's passing a homicide because of the large number of wounds, but then police challenged his finding. The ME switched his ruling to self-unaliving without an explanation. Now, remember when we were covering the Stephen Smith case, and the medical examiner and the coroner had a discussion. Well, I'll just write down what you want me to write down then. I'll just write down whatever you want me to write down then. Just like Stephen Smith. It's crazy, you guys. And this poor family, too. So sad. Osborne has now changed course again, writing in a statement filed Saturday. It is my professional opinion Ellen's manner of passing should be designated as something other than the self-unaliving. His comments come as one of two civil cases filed by Greenberg's parents accusing the city of emotional distress for allegedly mishandling Ellen's passing investigation and covering it up goes to trial Monday. Like I said, they just started jury selection. It is closed off to the media. Osborne said his latest determination was made after new information related to the case came to light. For example, and listen to this. We're going to listen to the 911 call too. This is ridiculous. For example, when Ellen's fiance was witnessed entering the apartment before placing the 911 call on January 26th, 2011, whether the door was forced open as reported, whether Ellen's body was moved by someone else in the apartment with her at or near the time of her passing, Greenberg's fiance has never been suspected by authorities of foul play. The filing comes as a judge ruled that Osborne must testify at a trial alongside another medical examiner, Sam Gulino, a homicide detective, John McNamee, who were involved in the case. Those names are going to become very important to you coming up. Just look at those names. Because remember, when it came to the medical examiner, and he said until he initially ruled it a homicide until he was pressured. Again, keep those names in your mind. Greenberg was engaged. That's so sad. And that person, I'll just keep my mouth shut right now. It also comes as Greenberg's parents, John and Sandy Greenberg, have fought for years to have the cell phone unaliving ruling changed back to homicide or undetermined. And I hope it don't go to undetermined. But I think with this trial, oh my gosh, this 911 call is going to piss you guys off, okay? This 911 call is going to piss you guys off. Yeah, just send, you can send any of the information to my email. Or you can send it to any of these other locations. All right, so here's the 911 call. Is it not going to play? It's not playing. Hold on.
Help! I need everything out. I just walked into my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere. I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. Like she's not responding.
Let's go back a little bit. Apparently, he just didn't run up there, break down the door and go in. He came up to the door. He was there on the phone for maybe 45 minutes. So he's not really making an effort if somebody's on the other side of the door to bring them aid, is he?
How do you know that?
I'm going to refer that question to Mr. Brennan and to Mr. Pedroza.
Part, if not all, of the emergency call was conducted from the hallway.
He was seen pacing in the hall. You look at the 911 call, you look at the scene, it just doesn't jive. He had those lines practiced before he made entry into the apartment.
Yes, he did.
I think that Sam had a lot of it memorized of what he was supposed to be doing at the time. He went downstairs to the gym. He came back upstairs. The door was latched. He said it twice. So I think it seemed rehearsed. I didn't think it seemed genuine at all.
Wait, it was just you there with her?
We're the only ones here.
Then latch is shut?
No, I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched. Like it was, it wasn't like it was, it was like locked from the inside.
Well, was your house
yelling
broken into?
No.
So there's no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
At Insight Global.
Yeah. Do you hear any kind of you hear any kind of distress? You hear any kind of pain? Do you hear any kind of concern? Do you hear any kind of that? Because I don't. Ridiculous. Hold on one second. There's something up with this website link here. Hold on one second. Let me get it on YouTube. This thing is like going crazy with the pop-up here. Let me see here 1 second. All right, hold on. All right, so here's this. We're going to go to this instead.
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. Okay? Just kneel down by her side.
Oh my God, Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
Oh my gosh, that is so fake.
She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife.
She fell. I'm sorry. She fell? She fell? Hold on. She fell?
Her shirt off. Okay? Just kneel down by her side.
Oh my God, Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
That is so fake. Hold on 1 second. Let me put me over here. That is so freaking fake. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
What?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
How are we 2.5 minutes into this phone call and you're just telling me there's a knife, a chef's knife sticking out of her chest? He says there's a knife sticking out of her chest. First, she must have fallen on it.
Right? What the and these are the injuries? And she must have. Oh my gosh, there's a. Do you hear any kind of emotion? Any kind of concern? Emotion? And those are the injuries. Oh my gosh.
Help! I need everything now. I just walked to my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere. I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. Like she's not responding.
And
Still down by her side.
Oh my God, Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir.
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell with a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
doesn't it make you angry? It's crazy, you guys. It's going to upset you. Now she was well accomplished. She got a degree in communications from Penn State. She got teaching credentials, Temple University. She was a first grade teacher. A first grade teacher, you guys. A first grade teacher. That's so sad. And then she met Samuel Goldberg. The guy that you hear on the 911 call. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like that's the kind of emotion that you have. It's very sad. 6:40 p.m. There were also 11 bruises in various stages on her arm, abdomen, and her right arm and her right leg. Not only just the wounds. So, Samuel says he returned from the gym to find their apartment dead bolted, and he knocked down the door after trying for an hour to reach her. This is your fiance. The crime scene was initially treated as a self-unaliving. But after the autopsy, medical examiner's office ruled it as a homicide the next day. People from law enforcement came by and said, it hasn't been ruled a homicide. And our homicide investigators are considering that it's suspicious at this time. So then the medical examiner changed the decision that next month. Does not make sense. Now, one of the wounds that came right here actually hit her brain. Okay. Thank you, Aunt Claire. One of the wounds actually hit her brain. From the back. So I'm going to show you some things here. Some things I have prepared for today. We're going to be doing more shows here. And then we're also going to be covering the trial. Like I said, they started jury selection today. They anticipate that the trial is going to last about a week and a half or so. So we will be doing the daytime shows, covering the trials, and then still continue to do our evening shows where we're still working on the other cases too. We still might include some evening shows of Ellen's too, just to try and include some of the later night show people in on some of it, just because of all the time zones. Isn't that crazy? It's messed up, you guys. When I even got a Nancy Grace, I got some Nancy Grace stuff. I think we'll kind of, because we love Nancy, and we got a little bit of Nancy Grace I want to show you because I like Nancy. You all know she gets to the facts, no BS, and says it like it is. So. But first, this is from a local news station, ABC Philadelphia. Like I said, they're going to be discussing things. I already know I'm, going to get hit from it too. It's just part of the business when it comes to the stuff that we're discussing sometimes. But it's about the awareness and so I want you guys to just understand everything that's really comes into it before we get into trial. That way, when we're watching the trial and breaking it down, you'll have a little more clarity on exactly what the situation was, instead of what might be twisted or attempted to be twisted. But we'll see. We're going to be covering the trial. So here's the first video. This is from a local TV station discussing the major development that we just brought to you.
Well, we have new developments in the Ellen Greenberg case. Today, a judge in a civil...
Thank you all for being here. Please hit the like button. It's freeway. And also, please share this out to the social media platforms because this does need attention. This does exist. And we always need to make sure that truth and justice exist everywhere, because any of these people that we discuss could be you or your loved ones. It's very important.
Civil suit ruled that there is enough evidence to go to trial. Now, Greenberg's family sued several Philadelphia city officials, claiming that the investigation into the 27-year-old's death caused them emotional distress. The Manayunk teacher was found dead in 2011 from multiple stab wounds. Her death ruled a suicide.
Today is 15 years that Sandy and Josh Greenberg have been waiting to have the opportunity to go to court. This case is intentional infliction of emotional distress by the defendants on Sandy and Josh for covering up the homicide of their daughter as a suicide.
So the medical examiner's report said Greenberg was stabbed in the head, the neck, and the chest. Her death was first ruled a suicide, then changed to a homicide, and then back to a suicide. The family's attorney, Joe Pedraza, says the defense could not give a solid explanation for the manner of death.
So when there was no support for suicide, obviously the inference is, well, then why is it being called a suicide? There must be other reasons. And we believe part of that reason is misconduct and just terrible investigative acts by the Philadelphia Police Department.
So this is one of two cases that's playing out in court. The first was filed in 2019 and seeks to have Ellen's manner of death changed from suicide back to homicide or undetermined. It's now before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Now, as for this case, jury selection begins Monday at 9 a.m. We also reached out to the city and the police department. They said they could not comment on pending litigation, but the trial starts Monday.
It's gone on a long time. Be nice for them to get some answers. Thank you.
Look at this. You've looked at it many times, but how? And Josh and Sandy, Ellen was right-handed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Joe Scott, number one, on the 911 call, we hear that her face is purple. I want to know, why is her face purple? Number one, why she's cold to the touch in that very short interval. Her body got completely cold in like an hour. But these stab wounds, that's what I really want you to talk. How can somebody right-handed stab themselves on the left side of the neck at an upward angle, right-handed? How do you take a knife and what? Okay, do that? I mean, I'm having to use my left hand to force my right hand. And they were all across the back of her neck. Impossible for a right-handed person to do that.
Yeah, it is. And every time this knife, and please, I beg forgiveness on the part of her parents here, but every time this knife is inserted, you have a pain center that fires in life. And this is almost intolerable. And the idea that you could manipulate the knife at these odd angles like this is implausible to me. And over and over and over, we're not just talking about one or two kind of passive cuts or stabs or incised areas. We're talking about multiple insertions of this knife into her body. I don't see how that is possible. There's no way that you'll ever certainly convince me. It's up to the courts as to whether or not that they're going to, well, it's up to the ME as to whether or not they're going to change a ruling on this case. And to the discoloration in her face, this is fascinating, isn't it, Nancy? You had mentioned the strap muscles earlier and how there were apparently focal areas of hemorrhage in those areas. And where do we see that, Nancy? You've done enough of these cases.
When you say focal areas of hemorrhage, you mean you can see the bruises?
Yes.
Focal areas of hemorrhage, bruise.
Right. Yeah, where you have these in the strap muscles. Strap muscles are a configuration of four muscles that are essentially laterally oriented, kind of crisscross in this area. And it's something that we look for many times with asphyxial deaths or manual strangulation.
And Joe Scott, isn't it true, as you point out, that there are fingernail marks around her neck?
Yeah, that has been alluded to, and I've kind of given this primer before, but if people just kind of think about, if you look at the long axis of your finger, look down it through your nail, and you see how it has that kind of elliptical shape, you'll see that transferred onto the neck most of the time when you have these nail marks. And it's quite striking, when you see it. And for those of us that have spent time in the morgue, which I have for many, many years, and have worked cases out on scenes, it's glaring, when you see it. And this goes again to this idea, and I know you didn't want to talk about this, but it goes to the idea of locking the scene down and securing the scene and processing it from the beginning.
Right.
When you have this implanted in your brain as an investigator, that this is a suicide, and that's the narrative you're going to run with, instead of coming in with a clean slate and pushing everybody out of the door.
Yeah, making sure that you rule all possibilities. Making sure you rule all possibilities, because the number one thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the spouse first. You're not just going to automatically take the spouse's word. Yes, she was KB. Ten of them, she had 20, 10 of them were to the back of her head and neck. 10 of them were to the back of her head and neck. And I bet those were first. Because I don't know how you get the ones in front without defensive wounds. You know what I'm saying? On the hands. So the ones from the back had to come first. And one of those punctured her skull. So yeah, when you show up, you automatically look at the spouse. I mean, that's just common freaking knowledge. And so when they show up and they rule it this, okay. But you're not supposed to. You're supposed to show up with a clear you got to explore it all. Number one, you got to explore the spouse. Yeah, we know Gavin Fish. We check him out from time to time.
Door, working the damn scene, locking the thing down so that you can get everybody out there. You're behind the 8 ball at that point in time because you've already predisposed yourself to the way you're going to look at it from a physical science perspective.
Hey, Joe Scott, we're showing photos of her kitchen. She was right in the middle of making a fruit salad. In fact, her body was found with a completely clean and pristine wash rag in her left hand. And then she suddenly decides, oh, you know what? Screw the fruit salad. I'm killing myself right
Nancy,
now in the most painful way I possibly can.
Can I please interject something here real quickly? Could
I stop you?
No, you can't. So for me, I've worked 2 cases in my career where an individual has died of self-inflicted stab wounds. I'm not talking about incised wounds where the wrist is cut. I'm talking about stab wounds. Nancy, in both of those cases, the individual was wildly psychotic in both of these cases. As a matter of fact, one guy had done it and he was a paranoid schizophrenic and he thought that he was being listened to by the government. He was looking for microphones in his body. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That's the level of pain that this extends to, that you would have to be out of your mind.
Right.
And to the best of my knowledge, and I've talked to Sandy and to Josh over the years since we've been covering this, there's no indication that this was going on with Ellen, that she was having some kind of psychotic break.
Right. Right.
Joining me in All-Star panel to make sense of what we know right now, but this is not over. Ellen Greenberg did not commit suicide. I would stake anything on it. And this gibberish, this blathering about searching painless ways to commit suicide, well, I can guarantee you, stabbing yourself 20 times is not a painless way to commit suicide.
No.
The FBI did a
Don't
very
do that.
extensive search of her computers, her laptops, her cell phone, the works, and found no evidence at all of any suicidal searches. As a matter of fact, to Benet Nauer joining us, co-author of What Happened to Ellen. Benet, isn't it true that what was found on her computer were searches of photos, images, and information related to planning a wedding?
That's right, Nancy. And I want to just add, so not only was Ellen preparing food and seeing to her students, she had filled up her car with gas. This was not a person who was ending her life. This was a person who was living her life. Yes, she had searched for things about her wedding. And her therapist said there was no suicidal ideation. Ellen was not suicidal. There was no evidence whatsoever from anywhere that Ellen was suicidal. None.
And in fact, that psychiatrist, Dr. Ellen Berman, is very clear in her written records. No suicidal thoughts, manifestations, no verbal discussion of suicide, nothing. At most, she was having anxiety as it relates to the wedding. Now, let me be clear about something. To Josh Greenberg, this is Ellen's dad. She was a daddy's girl. Josh, isn't it true that she, Ellen, and Sam had moved in together into this luxury Venice loft apartments and condos? And she was very, very happy moving forward, ostensibly moving forward with the wedding. But isn't it true, Josh, that prior to her death, she suddenly called home and wanted to move home to Harrisburg. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Mhm.
Emphatically, yes.
Exactly,
And
KB.
unexplainable to me.
And Josh, at the time, you gave her some very good advice. You said, listen, if you're anxious about school or you want to transfer schools, finish out the end of the year. Just finish. Don't leave midterm, because that would have been impossible for her to move back home to Harrisburg. And there she is living where they were at Venice Loft in a very high, no crime rate, zero crime rate. I just want to throw that in. So you said, wait it out. And then, of course, then come home if you want to. But don't do it now. Finish the year out. You told her that because you didn't want her, I assume, to get a reputation of leaving in the middle of the school year.
I had two things in my mind. Help my daughter, and I couldn't because I didn't know what was psychologically going on in her mind. And I wanted her not to become not hireable, let's call it, for lack of a better term. I care about her health and her job.
You know, Sandy and Josh, I had a similar thing happen. So maybe I'm projecting, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. My first job at a law school.
I don't mind being wrong.
I had, let me just say, to put it euphemistically, a very, very recalcitrant judge that I clerked for. And there were many times that I wanted to quit. And my dad said, don't. You finish that clerkship and then go to the next thing. And I did. I did what he told me to do. I get it. At any time, and she spoke to you guys every day and called her mom multiple times during the day. At any time, did she ever state to you, I want to kill myself? You know, sometimes people say that in jest, but did she ever say anything like that? No.
No, that never came up. Not even close to it. Home was as far as she wanted to go.
Who is Ellen Greenberg? Listen.
Ellen Greenberg is a first grade teacher in Philadelphia. At 27 years old, she and longtime boyfriend Sam Goldberg have just sent out save the date cards for their upcoming wedding. A blizzard is bearing down on Philadelphia, and school has dismissed everyone early. And on her way home, Ellen stops to fill up her gas tank. Once she's home with her fiance, Sam Goldberg leaves around 4:45 p.m. to work out in the apartment complex gym. When Sam arrives back less than an hour later, the door is locked from the inside.
Okay,
bolted.
the door locked from the inside. Joining me right now, Tom Brennan, private eye consultant with the Greenberg family. He's been on the case from the get-go, extremely loyal. He's standing by the case and the Greenbergs. Tom Brennan, explain to me about what kind of lock that was. It's my understanding it's one like you see a lot of times in a hotel. It's got a swing over, and you swing it over, and you can open the door from the outside about that much, but then it stops it.
Yes, you can. It's called a swinging bar lock, and you'll find them in any type of hotel or motel.
All right, so right there, you see the lock that was used. You see the piece that came out. An hour? What's up, Lily? An hour. You leave to go to the gym. You come back and you can open the door. And you're calling your wife and you're not hearing nothing for an hour, and then you decide to do that? I'm sorry. If I'm coming back and I'm not getting the phone answered and I'm yelling through the crack and I'm not getting an answer, I'm thinking my fiance, something happened inside. I'm not going to wait an hour to kick a couple screws out of a frickin' lock that looks like that. Right, that's what I would be kicking the That's what I'm saying. If she's not, if I just left and went to the gym and I knew she was starting to cook food. She was cooking while I was going to the gym, and I come back, and that door can be cracked open 2 or 3 inches, and she's not answering my phone, and I'm yelling in there, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm not waiting an hour. I'm kicking that mother effer down. Because what if she's laying on the ground and needs medical attention? Come on. An hour? Hell no."
But in order,
That's like the lock that what's that movie? Oh my gosh, it's too early. I haven't had enough coffee.
to disengage or unlock that lock, one or the other piece has to become dismounted. Okay. And one of the first things I looked at was the door. Okay.
Right.
This is a particle board door, and you can see the damage to it. And down below on the floor in the other photographs, there should have been some particle, wood particles, and there's one screw missing. That other screw should have been on the floor. Well, none of those things came into view. They weren't there. That indicated to me that, if you would have put your shoulder to that door, one or the other piece would have had to come off, would have had been dismounted from either the door jamb or the door. The Pennsylvania State Police sent me to lock school, and I did the surreptitious entries for the department, and I know a lot about locks. And that is not, that's what we refer to as staging. Okay, it's made to look like
Right.
it was damaged.
He said that's called staging. That's made to look like it. Like I said, as we get into this, it's gonna upset you. It's gonna piss you off. Sorry, I'm trying to do different trigger warnings down there for you guys. Just trying to, so I don't have to have this thing up here and block a good chunk of the screen. So I'm just trying to do it a little different down there. But yeah. Staged, he said.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people.
And thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. All right. So let me see here. Let me get to the next video. So this is the Law and Crime Network. And then we're going to check out that Nancy Grace episode. This one, yeah, there's the picture of the crime scene too. The Nancy Grace one was from a while ago, but she's got a lot of good people on there on that episode too. This one's Long Crime though. What's going on?
Ellen Greenberg.
Yeah, you have to do all these because of the subject.
Vibrant young teacher, engaged to be married, when she was found stabbed 20 times in her Philadelphia apartment.
Yeah, this
Ellen
guy right
Greenberg,
here.
a vibrant young teacher, engaged to be married.
That guy right there. Somebody was living a double life, y'all.
Married when she was found stabbed 20
Somebody's
times in her
living a
Philadelphia
double
apartment.
life.
Her death first classified as a homicide, but changed to suicide, angering her family, friends, and medical professionals. We're on the ground in Pennsylvania for this special collaboration between Law and Crime and News Nation. Hey everybody, this is Brian Enton. I'm in Philadelphia right now investigating the Ellen Greenberg case. Really just mysterious and disturbing. It's been going on now for 13 years or so, since back in 2011 when the 27-year-old teacher died. And there's been so many questions about the circumstances surrounding her death. When it comes to mysterious deaths, victims often find a way to be heard from beyond the grave. And so might be the case with Ellen Greenberg. Ellen was a first-grade teacher and bride-to-be, 27 years old, when she was found dead in her Philadelphia apartment back in January of 2011. She had 20 stab wounds, 10 to the back of her head and neck, and investigators quickly ruled the death a homicide. But weirdly, the death was reclassified as suicide, largely because of the statements of Ellen's fiancé, a man named Sam Goldberg. He and Ellen shared the apartment, he's the one who found Ellen's body, and he's the one who called 911. He told police he opened the door with his key after working out in the apartment complex gym, but the door was secured from the inside by a swing bar latch, like the kind you find in hotels. Here's a bit of his 911 call.
Help! I need a emergency now. I just walked into my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come. Help.
4601
Flat Rock Road.
Is this a house or apartment?
Oh no. Oh no. It's an apartment.
What apartment number?
Please hurry, please.
Where is she bleeding from?
I don't know. I can't tell.
No. So you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie.
Samuel Goldberg has never been so much as a person of interest in Ellen Greenberg's death, let alone a suspect. But Ellen's parents have been fighting since 2011 for justice. They say all of the experts they've consulted with tell them there is no way that Ellen's death could be a suicide.
With all the amount of physical evidence on my child's body, for these agencies to insist that she committed suicide and that she could put the knife in, take it out, put the knife in, take it out, then go this way. It was like, I cannot believe that.
It defies logic.
So all these years later, what gives...
It does defy logic again. These are the photos. The front defies logic. The front defies logic. The back really defies logic. And you see this one right here? That's the one that it penetrated the skull. Right there. How in the...
gives you both the motivation to do this? Why not? I mean, do you ever think, let's just rest up? Like,
No. Ellen was our daughter.
I want Ellen to be proud of Josh and I.
Ellen was our daughter. I'm not walking away.
We were very proud of her, and we want to make her proud of us.
We were given opportunities to walk away, and we both decided never to walk away. Justice.
Justice for Ellen.
Justice. Legal justice, truth justice. No more lying, boys. This is what it's all about. If you go there and lie, you're in big trouble. And I think they know that.
Ellen's parents are such nice people, and they're really fighters, and they are very disappointed right now in a lot of the agencies here in Pennsylvania, but especially with Governor Josh Shapiro.
Wow.
Shapiro, before he was governor, was the attorney general here in Pennsylvania.
Remember, now when we were covering the plane crash in Philly, remember, that's the guy that was up there. He was up there talking. That's the guy that was up there talking when we were covering the Philly plane crash. By the way, they just found that black box last night.
Pennsylvania, and at one point the case was handed over to the AG's office when he was the attorney general to be looked into yet again. And in the end, they decided that it was, in fact, a suicide. But Ellen's parents say that the office never even reached out to them once. They've never spoken to Shapiro. They feel like he never really wanted to dig into the case, they say. Of course, his name has been in the news a lot lately because there was all sorts of speculation that he could have possibly been Kamala Harris's running mate as VP. he wasn't chosen. And some people even speculate that this case may have something to do with that. We haven't seen it.
Wow, there's speculation that this case may have something to do with it. He wasn't interested in looking into it. What the heck? Wasn't interested in looking into it.
Seen any proof of that. There's also a lot of speculation that he may be somehow connected to Ellen's fiance Sam's family somehow. We've seen no proof of that either, but her family says it's just strange that he never took an interest in the case, especially when he was Attorney General. This is what they said when I asked them about Governor Shapiro. Did it bother you that Shapiro never, it doesn't seem like he took a personal interest in your case?
Yeah, but we have no power. I still don't have power over him.
But I wonder why he didn't.
I don't. Why we didn't? Or
no, why he didn't.
Beats me. I think. Okay, I'll answer that. I think he tried to keep his hands off as much as possible.
Right.
I think deep down he knew this was a hot potato.
Yeah, he looked into it, and yeah, exactly what Poppy is saying. He did look into it, and he's like, "Holy shit, that's a hot potato." Damn straight. That's why it's been quiet for so long. And at least the medical examiner had said, okay, look, right?
He might have known other things that we didn't know also. Like why this is happening.
Right.
That we don't know.
Well, we emailed his office and haven't heard anything.
You're not going to hear anything.
But good.
Good.
Ask away.
It just seems like for a politician, that would be something you could be proud of, helping a case get solved, finding the truth.
He didn't. He went what I'm going to call the party line. This is a suicide. That was the party line.
Another thing that perplexes Ellen's parents is they say they haven't been able to get all of the evidence in the case. They've gotten a lot of it over the years, but they say, for example, Ellen's journal, they haven't been able to get. She was keeping a journal. They say that her psychiatrist had asked her to keep a journal, and they want to know what's in it. They haven't been able to get photographs. It's still, they say, with law enforcement,
Ain't that
with the
crazy?
medical examiner, actually.
They can't even have the journal. They're not even allowed to read the journal. If it's self-unaliving, it's shut and close. They're not even allowed to read their daughter's journal. That is, I'm telling you guys, it's going to piss you off the more you hear. It's ridiculous. This happened in 2011.
Actually. And they don't understand why that's one piece of evidence they haven't been able to get. Take a listen.
The medical examiner's office still is holding that journal. They won't release that time.
Which is there's no reason for that. Because this suicide is not a crime.
So all these years later, they won't give you the journal?
No.
Nope. They won't give me her Ugg boots. They won't give me her glasses. Nope.
This is all what we've been going through. Stupidity like this.
What's the reason they give?
They don't.
So do you not know what's in the journal?
No.
No, we've never seen it.
We've never seen it.
Ain't that crazy? Never seen it. Don't even know what's in it. They can't even have her glasses. These parents just went on Surviving the Survivor podcast a couple days ago, I think. And we're going to listen to that conversation too. You're going to hear more than just a couple minutes from Brian Enton. Shout out Surviving the Survivor podcast. It's crazy, you guys. Humongous cover up. Humongous.
But they're
cover
saying
up.
it's just a suicide.
They don't say. They say it's a suicide and the case is closed.
So then why can't you have the journal?
Exactly.
We'd like to know
Maybe
why.
you want to ask them.
Do you think there's...
How is a self-unaliving criminal, Busby? How is a self-unaliving criminal? It's a cover-up.
There's something in the journal that she wrote that makes it seem like it's not suicide, which is why they don't want you to see that?
We don't know.
Or maybe she's I mean, who knows? Maybe she's talking about I I got hit and he apologized, and then it happened again and he apologized. And no, that's what they ruled it, Busby. It's been ruled a self-unaliving since, okay, so this took place in January. At the very end of January, the 26th, I think it was. Let me double check the date. January 26th is when this took place. Initially, the medical examiner ruled it a homicide. Then, after he ruled it a homicide, the next day, law enforcement came by and wanted to have a conversation and urged that it be ruled as suspicious, and then it was ruled as a self-unaliving. Now, it's been ruled a self-unaliving. It's been ruled a self-unaliving all the way since early February, just a few days after it took place. Now, just recently, the medical examiner came out 14 years later and said, okay, it should be ruled something other than what it's ruled right now. Yeah, that's why I was telling you it wasn't ruled that the self-unaliving. So when it comes to them not releasing the items, it's messed up because it wasn't ruled a homicide. It was ruled a self-unaliving until just recently.
Ellen's parents also say they are concerned because they claim Sam's uncle and cousin were able to get access into the apartment.
And that's the guy.
Upsetting thing to me is the unauthorized uncle came to the building, got permission to get a suit for Sam with his son, and they came for the suit, but somehow they left with Ellen's 2 computers, Ellen's wallet, car keys, handbag,
Cell phone,
critical electronics that they had no business taking. They never had permission.
Ain't that nuts?
I'm suspicious.
Listen to all those items that you can't see the diary. Then somebody can come by and take all of those items, electronic devices. Why wasn't law enforcement there obstructing an investigation? Hello?
Authorized uncle came to the building, got permission to get a suit for Sam with his son.
No, a lot of these times the medical examiners, just like in the Stephen Smith case that we did a couple years ago, the medical examiners get pressured by law enforcement to rule things a certain way. Or they get pressured by higher individuals, like in Stephen Smith's case. Law enforcement actually came to the medical examiner and the coroner and said, no. But it was up to the medical examiner and the coroner who were being pressured from people higher up. Now, this is a similar situation, but the roles are reversed. The medical examiner is the one that's saying, no, this is what happened, and the law enforcement is saying, no, this is what took place. Then he said, okay, but then comes out and says, okay, look, this should be this. Now this stuff's being opened up here. So we got the full statement right here from Brian Enton. This just came out yesterday, and this is his full statement. We'll get into this before we get into the Nancy Grace episode, but this is a short one. I wanted to show just all the stuff that they took, all the different items, and we're going to go into the parents interview that they did on Surviving the Survivor podcast too.
And they
So
came for the
much.
suit, but somehow they left with Ellen's 2 computers, Ellen's
Cell phone.
wallet, car keys, handbag,
Cell phone.
cell phone, critical electronics that they had no business taking. They never had permission.
I'm suspicious of that.
So the police didn't immediately take those things?
No, they waited till Saturday.
3 or 4 days.
3 or 4
Why?
days, you
We don't know.
guys.
That's a good question. Ask the Philadelphia.
The items were sitting there, and they were allowed. It's wild. Feels so bad, Wild. It's not right.
The police department.
We never had any phone calls ever telling us what was going on.
Right, Cecilia?
Never.
The Uncle Ellen's parents were talking about is James Schwartzman, and his attorney released a statement to News Nation that says, while the property manager called the police for permission for Mr. Schwartzman to enter the property, Mr. Schwartzman also independently called the police and received authorization to enter the apartment.
Ain't that
noting that the
nuts?
police told them they were done with the apartment.
Ain't
He had
that
come to
nuts?
get a suit for Samuel Goldberg as well as to get his
They were
computer
done.
prior to the funeral. While he was there, he didn't know which computer was Sam's and which was Ellen's, so he picked up the computers and the phones. He saw that Ellen's diamond engagement ring was there on the end table, noted that the door lock was damaged from being broken down, so he took the ring as well. He promptly took the items to the police when asked for them several days later and dropped them off, including the ring. He did not take Ellen Greenberg's purse. Both his clients, James and Kamian Schwartzman, have fully cooperated with the investigation. I really wanted to see inside Ellen's condo where she lived back in 2011 and where she was found dead. Obviously, there's new tenants there. I went to the condo. It's in Philadelphia, and the new tenants, young college kids, graciously let me in. Take a look. We're inside the condo building where Ellen Greenberg lived with her fiance, and this is the actual apartment where Ellen was. This is where she was discovered, right inside here. What's interesting is we were looking at the crime scene photos. The locks here are exactly the same. That hasn't been changed. Most things remain the same. There's been some updates that have been made over the years. Obviously, there's new tenants here who, by the way, did not know about what happened in the apartment. But Ellen's body was discovered right here in the corner. The cabinets are still all the same when you compare it to the crime scene photo. She was slouched down right here in the corner when she was discovered.
Aw. Ain't that crazy? They didn't even know about it, and they knew that. Now you got this long-ass hallway, too.
Let me in. Take a look. We're inside the condo building where Ellen Greenberg lived with her fiance, and this is the actual apartment.
Look at that long-ass hallway. You couldn't have maintenance. You couldn't have maintenance come up. Come on, man.
This is where she was discovered, right
right there. This is so horrible.
Inside here. What's interesting is we were looking at the crime scene photos. The locks here are exactly the same. That hasn't been changed. Most things remain the same. There's been some updates that have been made over the years. Obviously, there's new tenants here who, by the way, did not know about what happened in the apartment. But Ellen's body was discovered right here in the corner.
Cooking food. Dude comes up from behind her. The hell?
The cabinets are still all the same when you compare it to the crime scene photo. She was slouched down right here in the corner when she was discovered. While I was here, I also met up with Ellen's best friend, Allison. That's her name. They were best friends forever. They were best friends since they were 5 years old. They went on trips together. They actually were roommates at one point. Really, really, really close. Allison called Ellen her person. In fact, they were engaged around the same time. And they would all go out together, Allison and her now husband, and Ellen and Sam.
Thank you, SR.
And, at the time, Allison told me she never got a feeling that there was real trouble in the relationship or that Ellen was abused. But she says, looking back, there were strange things. She felt like there was a control aspect. She says Ellen would have to ask Sam, you know, for permission to do things which
For permission, jealousy. I can't stand looking at this. She's so beautiful, and I'm just looking at him and his freaking grin. You know what I'm saying? That freaking grin. The fake ass concern, not even good fake concern in the 911 call. That freaking grin, man. That freaking grin. Contribution call out Cecilia. Thank you for becoming a new member. Appreciate you very much. Oh yeah. That's why I was saying that when it comes to the journal, yeah, her friends maybe not have heard about certain things going on, but I'm telling you right now, I bet you the journal has it in there. Oh, he did this to me and he apologized, and he did this to me and he apologized. I hope he can change. And it probably started after the engagement. Just saying. Look at that damn grin. Oh, you just want to wipe it off the face. You know what I'm saying?
they were best friends since they were 5 years old. They went on trips
Let me wipe that grin off your face for you, bro.
together. They actually were roommates at one point. Really, really, really close. Allison called Ellen her person. In fact, they were engaged around the same time, and they would all go out together. Allison and her now husband, and Ellen and Sam. And, you know, at the time, Allison told me she never got a feeling that there was real trouble in the relationship or that Ellen was abused. But she says, looking back, there were strange things. She felt like there was a control aspect. She says Ellen would have to ask Sam, you know, for permission to do things, which she says wasn't, you know, in Ellen's personality in the past. But after Ellen died, Allison actually had several conversations with Sam. She said 3 or 4 times. One time they spoke at the funeral. They also met up at a Starbucks to talk. And she says that Sam actually gave her information about exactly what he found when he discovered Ellen, in his words, and how it all went down. And I want you to listen to what what Allison had to say to me. And what did you think when you found out that it was changed to suicide?
I remember the day I found that out. Sam actually called me to tell me, and I thought, wow, like, I didn't know why he was calling me to tell me. And I didn't believe it at that point, because I'd already known all these other facts. I knew about the 20 stab wounds. You know, as far as like how that happened, who did it, I had no idea, but I knew it wasn't suicide.
When you met with Sam or talked to Sam, did he ever give you like a timeline or like what he saw when he went in?
Yeah.
Did he describe it to you?
Oh, yeah.
And what did he say?
So I remember, again, sitting with him. I think this was January 28th after the funeral. And I remember him saying he, you know, had just gone to the gym. He had, you know, left Ellen in the apartment, and I had asked, like, was there a fight or anything? He said, no, she was just really stressed with work. And so he left. When he came back, he said it was about a half hour later, and he, you know, went to use his key to open, and he said that the door was latched. I actually had written all this down, so I just looked back, you know, through my notes to refresh my memory. So it was latched. He said that he, you know, called her name, you know, thought maybe she was napping or in the shower.
Good afternoon, Heather.
He said he called her mom then to see if, you know, she mentioned anything to her mom. and she hadn't heard anything. Then he said at that point he went downstairs to the front door, or to the security, and asked if maintenance was there and could help him get into the apartment. And they said, maintenance is gone for the day. And he said the advice he was given was to use his shoulder. If he's going to try to break open the door, use his shoulder. So then he went back up, and he said he used his shoulder. He said it took 1, maybe 2 times. He didn't remember. And the force that he used swung open the door, and he spun around and was facing the kitchen and saw her. And he said her back and shoulders were kind of up against the lower cabinets. And he said her little fingers were blue. I remember him saying that her little fingers were blue. And he said he called 911 immediately, and they were going to instruct him to do CPR. So he moved her to the floor. And at that time, he saw the knife.
You were questioned by the police at one point?
Yes. So the week of February 7th, I was back in town. I had been in New Orleans for work. I came back, and I was asked by the homicide unit to come down to Philadelphia, I believe it was the Race Street location, so that they could question me, obviously, just as more of a, what information could they get as a friend. And I was interviewed by there. It was the strangest feeling to be in there, because I'm like, this is not my life. What am I doing here? I remember just feeling like they didn't care what I was saying. It was almost like they were checking the box that they had me there. And at one point he even said, "Are you trying to point fingers here?" And I said, "No."
Huh. Wow. Are you trying to point fingers here? Who? Wouldn't that be something like, oh, that's suspicious. Okay. We'll look into that. Are you trying to point fingers? Are you trying to point fingers? Now, there's possibly a deal already being worked out because the family was suing the city. There might be a deal being worked out during the first day of jury selection. Interesting. I'll keep you guys updated.
I'm just answering your questions and giving you the information that I know. I'm only giving you fact. So yeah.
So did you feel like they had already had their mind made up about what happened?
Yeah. This was like, I have to just do this. Let me get this over with. Like, I didn't feel like they were interested in what I had to say. And again, not that I wasn't there that day, so I have no information of what happened. But I knew what he had told me, and I knew who, Ellen was, and I, knew a little bit about the apartment. I knew a little bit about their routines, but they had no interest in hearing from me.
Yeah, so now records are coming out. Is there any
her frickin' best friend, they had no interest in hearing what she had to say. Even at one point asked her if she was accusing somebody. It's already suspicious when you see the injuries. You automatically go for the spouse and then try to... what?
Documentation of your conversation with police?
Nope.
And they were done with the apartment after 4 days. What? And didn't take any...
No police report?
Right. Apparently,
no electronics?
The last that I've heard of the 5,000-page document that lawyers have gone through, there's no report in there of my interview with police. And I know for a fact I was there at homicide headquarters talking to Detective Harris.
I'm going to tell you right now, if there's a deal that's worked out, you're going to see some resignations coming out today. I guarantee it. Those names that I told you to remember earlier in the show, yeah, if there's a deal that's worked out today, there is going to be some resignations. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. We might be having some breaking news coming here in a couple hours while we're getting into this.
Paris.
But there's no document. Did you see him write something down?
Yes. I saw him write something down and I was there. So whether or not he was writing, you know, what he did with that paper, it should have still been documented that I was there.
I mean, all these years later, are you surprised that it's still at a standstill?
Yeah. I mean, it's a complete injustice here. It's just baffling how every time there seems to be a win and everything's going in the right direction, somebody political or very, you know, financially savvy is putting a stop to it. And it's defying common sense. You know, my students at school, my kindergartners could probably figure this out of what happened. And somebody's trying really, really hard to cover up what really went on that day. Because if not, why wouldn't they let an investigation go on?
A big component in terms of witnesses in the case has been the security guard or concierge who was working in Ellen's building when the death happened. Ellen's fiance, Sam Goldberg, said the security guard at the apartment complex was with him when he kicked in the door, but the guard said that absolutely did not happen and told police, quote, "I did not accompany or escort Mr. Goldberg up the elevator, stairs, or otherwise at any time on January 26, 2011. I tracked down that security guard in Philadelphia, and this is what he told me." Did Sam ever ask you to go, or did you ever go with Sam up to the door when he was trying to get in?
No.
Do you know where that story came from?
Came from him. He know I didn't walk up with him. And I get angry when I hear that, because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time, says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam.
All right, hold on. We're going to get to some breaking news here. By the way, follow me on Twitter. I do retweet all of this information as we're going through it. On any of these cases or discussions that we're having, even during live shows of others, I do continually retweet all this information. A settlement has now been reached between Ellen Greenberg's family and the city of Philadelphia. It includes the medical examiner agreeing to review the cause of death. Here's the latest right here, Brian Netton.
We have resolved the matter. So the litigation as to the Greenbergs and the city, both at the Supreme Court level and here at the trial court level, has been resolved. There will be a review by the medical examiner's office. Hopefully, we hope will be consistent with what Dr. Osborne just said in his verification. And we proceed forward in getting justice for Ellen. From our vantage point, extremely happy.
What's next?
Well, we'd like to find out who the murderer or murderers of Ellen is/are.
You're at that stage right now.
Yeah, we'd like to go that. Yeah, and we're going to pursue that.
So not undetermined, not undetermined. You want to go right?
Well, whatever the medical examiner's office says, really doesn't concern me. What did was Dr. Osborne's verification, which to us and to my clients was worth more than money. And with that, I think now it's the steps forward to bring in the people to justice who are responsible for this homicide.
What tipped the scales this morning, Joe? What happened behind closed doors?
Well, you know, a lot of things go into account. Trials, there's a great deal of risk. For one thing, you know, my clients have been fighting this. For them, 14 years. For us, 5 years. There's a lot of costs, a lot of expense, a lot of risks when it comes to like appeals. So those factors came in. The consideration by the city, the payment to them.
So there you go, breaking news. They just reached a settlement. And we're going to go ahead And let me pull up those documents real quick for you. And then we'll get back into this program. Give me 1 second here. So these are, if it'll come up, this is Dr. Marlon Osborne's statement here. Give me 1 second. All right, so this is the statement. It says, I am a resident of the state of Florida and maintain a medical practice at 3561 yada yada. I am a licensed physician in the field of pathology in Florida. I was employed as a pathologist at the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office from September 2009 to September 2014. What's up, Stephanie? Good morning to you. On January 11th, 2011, I performed an autopsy on Ellen R. Greenberg, deceased, determined her manner of passing to be homicide, and signed a death certificate indicating her manner of death as homicide. I therefore issued an amended death certificate on April 4th, 2011 for Ellen, which changed her manner of death from homicide to suicide. So when they say that they were done with the apartment 4 days after this took place, it was still listed as suspicious. They didn't take any electronic devices. Wasn't until April 4th. Now, we were told February. That's interesting. This change was made based on additional evaluation of the case file. Additionally, information provided to me by the Philadelphia Police Department and neuropathology consult I secured from Lacey Rourke Adams, MD. Since issuing the amended death certificate, I've become aware of additional information I did not have at the time of issuing the amended death certificate, which may have impacted my opinion. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning, Vivian. I am now aware that information exists which draws into question, for example, whether Ellen's fiance was witnessed entering the apartment before placing the 911 call on January 26, 2011, whether the door was forced open as a result, whether Ellen's body was moved by someone else inside the apartment with her at or near the time of her death, and findings of Lindsay Emery, MD, from her neuropathological evaluation of Ellen's cervical segment sample. It is my understanding that I am no longer empowered to amend Ellen's death certificate myself because I no longer maintain a Pennsylvania medical license and am no longer employed by the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office. But based on my consideration of the new information brought to my attention after leaving my position as medical examiner for the city of Philadelphia, along with my original autopsy findings, information considered while I was actively involved in Ellen's case, it is my professional opinion Ellen's manner of death should be designated as something else than self-unaliving. I hereby verify and affirm that the statements made in this verification are true to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. I understand that false statements hereon are made subject to the penalties of 18 PACS. Oh, Yoli told me that. 4904 relating to unsworn falsification to authorities, and this was just dated a couple days ago. So again, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the major announcement the family has came up with an agreement with the city, and like I said, wait for some resignations to start dropping here, guaranteed.
We have resolved the matter. So the litigation as to the Greenbergs and the city, both at the Supreme Court level and here at the trial court level, has been resolved. There will be a review by the medical examiner's office. Hopefully, we hope will be consistent with what Dr. Osborne just said in his verification. And we proceed forward in getting justice for Ellen. From our vantage point, we're extremely happy.
What's next?
Well, we'd like to find out who the murderer or murderers of Ellen is/are.
You're at that stage right now.
Yeah, we'd like to go that. Yeah, and we're going to pursue that.
So not undetermined, not undetermined, you want to go right?
Well, whatever the medical examiner's office says, really doesn't concern me. What did was Dr. Osborne's verification, which to us and to my clients was worth more than money. And with that, I think now it's the steps forward to bring in the people to justice who are responsible for this homicide.
What tipped the scales this morning, Joe? What happened behind closed doors?
Well, a lot of things go into account. Trials, there's a great deal of risk. For one thing, my clients have been fighting this for them 14 years, for us 5 years. There's a lot of costs, a lot of expense, a lot of risks when it comes to like appeals. So those factors came in. The consideration by the city, the payment to them.
All right, and now I'm going to switch back to this. For anybody that doesn't know about Ellen's case, I'm just going to show you a few pictures, and this will tell you all you need to know. It is trigger warning graphic. But when it comes to these injuries, this was labeled a self-unaliving. Ten to the front, 10 to the back, and one of them punctured the skull. And this was ruled a self-unaliving, was still listed as a homicide until April 4th. So 2.5 months. And they were done with the apartment after 4 days. And if you haven't heard the 911 call, trust me, you'll want to go back to the beginning. This is an episode where I'm bringing everybody, catching everybody up to date. So if you are just joining, make sure you start from the beginning. We're kind of going through everything just to introduce the case to you. Yes, no freaking way is it. I got more shows coming for you too. Like I said, this is one of the cases about a year ago, somebody reached out to me, asked me to start looking into it. And trust me, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be getting through now, because now with this, the jury selection was happening today. Now the family reached a settlement, and this isn't over. So now that there's actually some things that are taking place, there's some real justice that could be happening here. And prayers to the family. This happened in 2011, you guys. 2011. Just over 14 years ago. January 26th, 2011.
Guard said that absolutely did not happen and told police, quote, "I did not accompany or escort Mr. Goldberg up the elevator, stairs, or otherwise at any time on January 26, 2011. I tracked down that security guard in Philadelphia, and this is what he told me." Did Sam ever ask you to go, or did you ever go with Sam up to the door when he was trying to get in?
No.
Do you know where that story came from?
Came from him. He know I didn't walk up with him. And
ain't that nuts, you guys? How in the hell does you see what I'm saying? When they're interviewing the best friend and they sit there and tell the best friend, "Are you trying to point your fingers at somebody?" It's not going to be suspicious when you interview a witness to the statement of the person that, I mean, yes, some resignations are about to pop off, y'all.
I get angry when I hear that. Because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time, says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder
Really?
to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, that's hey, truth don't need no company, man. You know.
Truth don't need no company. What's up, Stephanie B? I know it doesn't make sense, does it? As soon as you look at it, it's like, no, how? And then he's sitting there, he giggles about the story. I've never heard of that one. I'll have to do me a favor, send me some info on it, please. He told me I needed to use my shoulder. He goes, what?
I get angry when I hear that, because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time, says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder
Really?
to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, that's hey, truth don't need no company, man.
It sounds like doesn't it sound like that's the first time the security guard ever heard that? Doesn't it sound like that's the first time he's ever heard that? His reaction. Don't you think the police would have asked him that question? Wow. Listen to this response and watch his reaction. It's like the first time. This is nuts.
At Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder
Really?
to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, that's hey, truth don't need no company, man. You know, if that's what he said, that's what it is for him.
Wow.
My cameras and my guide said I was sitting at the front desk and advised him not to go upstairs.
Dang. I was sitting at the front desk and I advised him not to go upstairs. I tell you what, on our next show, because we won't have time to do it today, we're still going to be hanging out for a while. But on our next show, we're going to be looking into the investigators. It's horrible, isn't it, Aaliyah? I mean, you know, I hate discussing it because a lot of times that's the cases we discuss are cases that involve some shady ass stuff. But trust me, our whole team we love law enforcement. We couldn't even live the lives we live without the protection from law enforcement. But I'm going to be damned if there's wolves out amongst the sheep and we don't talk about the wolves. This was from the start. We're going to get into these investigators on another show coming up. And that damn smirk. I'm tired of seeing that smirk on his face. Way above his league and he couldn't handle it. Bro, you had a diamond. And you didn't even realize it, buddy. Sad. A first grade teacher. You guys want to... This is so sad. Look at this picture with their class. Now, the faces are blurred out because, we're not going to show children. But look at the picture with her class. You had a frickin' diamond, dude. Sad. It's so sad. Just wait. We're getting into Nancy Grace after this.
I know he lied. He know he lied. But why doesn't the system say, well, did anybody ever ask him, why did you lie on the guard? We have proof to say that he, I don't know if anybody talked to him that way. I don't know why they don't talk to him that way. I certainly would talk to him that way because if I applied my street knowledge to it, I can get to him. See, what
right?
you talking about, man?
Right?
F***ing well I wouldn't. I can go to him like that. They're gonna arrest me later. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. That security guard.
Bunch of BS. Bunch of BS. And this is the guy that he supposedly went to. He told me to use my shoulder. And to me, it sounds like he wasn't even questioned. It sounds like this guy wasn't even questioned. Let me go right here. Let me go back to the statement here.
Security guard at the apartment complex was with him when he kicked in the door.
Because if not, why wouldn't they let an investigation go on?
A big component in terms of witnesses in the case has been the security guard or concierge who was working in Ellen's building when the death happened. Ellen's fiance, Sam Goldberg, said the security guard at the apartment complex was with him when he kicked in the door, but the guard said that absolutely did not happen and told police, quote, I did not accompany or escort Mr. Goldberg up the elevator, stairs, or otherwise at any time on January 26, 2011.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize it was showing the whole thing. And 1 second, I need to change this to. I tried to make a trigger thing for you guys. And that's blocking it now. 1 second. All right. It says, I did not accompany or escort Mr. Goldberg up the elevator stairs or otherwise at any time on January 26, 2011. 4 days later, they let the apartment, they were done with it. It was free. Obviously done with the items because they didn't care about the items inside there too. And didn't really care that his story lined up. They already knew something. Why were they covering for this guy from the get-go? Why were they covering for this guy from the get? Yeah, a shoulder's not going to bust that deadbolt. You're going to dislocate your shoulder. That's going to be dislocated. But then when you hear this, it's just like, okay, I did not accompany him or escort him. Okay, thank you. It's like that's all they took from him and said, okay, thank you. Didn't even tell him, well, he told us that you did this. No, he didn't, because then he wouldn't have had the reaction he had with Brian Enton.
I tracked down that security guard in Philadelphia, and this is what he told me. Did Sam ever ask you to go, or did you ever go with Sam up to the door when he was trying to get in?
No.
Do you know where that story came from?
Came from him. He know I didn't walk up with him. And I get angry when I hear that, because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time, says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, that's, hey, truth don't need no company, man. You know, if that's what he said, that's what it is for him. My cameras and my guide say I was sitting at the front desk.
Yeah, he was giggling for a second. Now he's getting serious. Like, now it's starting to sink into him, right? Now it's starting to sink into him. He's like, wait a minute. It's like the first time he's heard the story about the dude's statement. Because at first he's shocked. He's caught off guard. He giggles a little bit. Then all of a sudden, as he's talking to Enton, he's like, son of a bee. This dude used me as his freaking alibi. And for what he did.
Where that story came from?
Came from him. He know I didn't walk up with him. And
now it's starting to sink in.
I get angry when I hear that, because for him to lie on me or any concierge who would have been there at that particular time.
Yep, now it's sinking in.
Says a lot about him.
We were just at Ellen's best friend's house, and she was telling us that she talked to Sam afterwards, and he said that the security guard advised him to use his shoulder to bust open the door.
Really? Okay, if that's what he says, that's, hey, truth don't need no company, man. You know, if that's what he said, that's what it is for him. My cameras and my guide say I was sitting at the front desk and advised him not to go upstairs. I know he lied. He know he lied. But why doesn't the system say, well, did anybody ever ask him, why did you lie on the guard?
Right.
Do we have proof to say that he, you know, I don't know if anybody talked to him that way.
Right.
I don't know why they don't talk to him that way. I certainly would talk to him that way, because if I applied my street knowledge to it, I can get to him. Say, what the f*** you talking about, man? You know, f***ing well I wouldn't. I can go to him like that. They're going to arrest me later. You feel me?
Mm-hmm. That security guard, that concierge, you can tell he's still very, very emotional about all of this. You know, even 13 years later, still feels very, very raw for him. It's hard for him to talk about. It's the same for Ellen's family and friends. All of them have some hope, though, because they did get a win with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. You know, her parents took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they have now essentially given permission for things to move forward in terms of for them to try to look into what the cause of death really was, and perhaps maybe eventually the investigation can be opened back up. You know, her parents have spent $700,000 of their own money trying to
My
get
Lord.
this reinvestigated.
That's so crazy. $700,000 of their own money. My gosh. So sad. Poor family. And they're, oh, I hate seeing it. Look at the photo, you know? You know, look at who's in the damn photo. $700,000. All right, here's Nancy Grace, y'all. It's going to do this to me again. Come on.
Truth, right? And so I stayed.
Breaking news tonight. A bride-to-be with 1 foot down the aisle is stabbed 20 times. Her body riddled with bruises. How is that ruled suicide? Tonight, a special guest, a prosecutor from within the district attorney's office, breaking his silence.
Go, Nancy. We just broke the news to you. It happened about an hour ago. The family came up with a settlement. We went through Osborne's full statement. It's crazy. I know, Aaliyah. I know. The fact that a lot of families don't have that kind of money. That's why when we talk about these cases, it's like, think about them families in the middle of nowhere that have to sit there and say, I'm sorry, honey, that we just have to. No, you don't. No, you don't. And thank you all for being here.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is
Go, Nancy. Go, Nancy.
Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Philadelphia Fire Department 842. What's the address?
My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere. Oh my God, she stabbed herself. There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
I don't believe.
I know, and if you want to hear the 911, we played both parts earlier in the show. Oh my gosh! There's no concern, man. I would have screeching and crying in my damn voice, screaming. What the hell, man? This is your fiance, bro. Oh, that smirk.
Philadelphia Fire Department 842. What's the address?
My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere. Oh my God, she stabbed herself. There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
I don't believe it. I'm going on the record. Ellen Greenberg did not.
Oh, in his 911 call, they didn't play that part. I'm sure they'll get to it. In his 911 call, you can hear him say, she must have fell. Oh, no, she didn't. And then because that goes right before you hear him go, oh my gosh, she's still. Before that, he said, she must have fell. Oh, that damn smirk. Oh my God.
I don't believe it. I'm going on the record. Ellen Greenberg did not commit suicide. And I am basing that on reams and reams of evidence.
And common sense. again, this is a triggering episode. When you see these injuries and you say this is self-unaliving, what the hell are you talking about?
Joining us tonight, an assistant district attorney who was within the DA's office that did not investigate properly. But first, I want to see what I can learn from the 911 call. Listen.
I want to know, it is rehearsed. You can tell it's rehearsed when you hear it, and hopefully she plays the whole thing. But this is, why were they covering for this guy from the very start? As soon as they showed up, they were already, it's automatically closed off as a self-unaliving before you even show up. It sounds like Micah Miller, don't it? Doesn't it sound like Micah Miller? They show up and it's all hell, Micah Miller, they didn't even find her body yet, and they're like, yeah, it's a self-unaliving. It sounds just like it, don't it? Oh my gosh.
From the 911 call, listen.
Oh.
Help, I just walked to my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
Please come, help. Oh no. Oh no. Please, Harry, please.
She's bleeding from.
I don't know. I can't tell.
No, so you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie.
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't tell where the blood's coming from?
I think her head. But it's everywhere.
Okay,
it's everywhere.
She might have fallen. Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone.
Well, that's unusual. He says there's blood everywhere, but when authorities arrived, they noticed it was an extremely neat scene and very little blood. In light of the fact that the victim, who was sitting up, leaning against the kitchen cabinets, her feet slayed out before her, had been stabbed at least 20 times, including to the back of the neck,
10.
the back of the head,
10.
and more. And now
10 of the wounds were in the back. 10 of
we're learning that there are bruises to the neck unrelated to the stabs.
See, now we just heard bruises to the right arm, the right leg, and the abdomen. What? Why was this covered from the beginning? Like I said, we'll have more shows coming up, parents interviews. We're going to be getting into the investigators' backgrounds. It's just like Micah Miller, you guys. Except this dude was at the scene of the...
Let that sink in. Why are there bruises around Ellen's neck? That said, more of the 911 call. Listen.
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please, Harry.
4601 Flat Rock?
Yes.
What's wrong?
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. Like she's not responding.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down. I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back. So
okay, look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
She's not lying down. She was not lying flat on her back. The 911 caller says she's on her back. No. Isn't it true? John Lucy with me, an all-star panel, including Ellen's parents, Josh and Sandy, but with us, Guy DeAndrea, a prosecutor in the office who reviewed the case, Benet Nauer, who is creating a book, What Happened to Ellen, Tom Brennan, consultant for the Greenberg family, Dr. Kendall Crowns, renowned medical examiner, to John Lucy, journalist Penn Live, and the Patriot News of Harrisburg, author of Kill the Story. John Lucy, thank you for being with us. She was not lying flat on her back. And as a matter of fact, isn't it true, John Lucy, that blood had dried going from the nose area across the face toward the ear? There was horizontal dried blood, which means she was not sitting up when this happened. And when first responders got there, blood was already coagulated on the floor, and her body was cold to the touch, and her fingers were turning blue. Isn't that?
You know what that means, you guys? It means he went to the frickin' gym to wash her blood off of him. He committed the crime, left the crime scene, went to the gym, washed the blood off of himself in their shower, came back upstairs, staged it, then placed the 911 call. And how he doesn't get questioned in the very beginning, don't understand it. Yeah, there's no way it happened in 30 minutes while he was gone. He committed this crime before he went to the gym to wash the blood off so it didn't show up in his shower. Why was this guy protected from the start?
Isn't that true?
That is correct. Yeah, she was at the crime scene, the way it was photographed, she is slumped up against the kitchen cabinet with a knife protruding, a 10-inch knife protruding from her chest. And on the face, you have the wrong way blood based on the position she was found in, which means the conclusion is her body was moved, that at some point she was in that flat on her back position, but somehow moved to be slumped up against the cabinet.
I like what you just said, Lucy. You said the wrong way blood. I've never heard it put like that, like a wrong way driver. The wrong way blood. That captures it perfectly. You are seeing the bride-to-be, Ellen Greenberg, in life, and she is a beauty. Again, joining us an all-star panel, but I think we could all do with another listen to the 911 call. No matter how many times you listen to it, you can always learn something new. Listen.
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. Okay. Kneel down by her side.
Oh my God. Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir.
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
Her what?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
She stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
You know, maybe it's just me, but if I came in and I found, I didn't even say the words, my husband stabbed, my first thought would not be he stabbed himself. My first thought would not be he fell on the knife. That just would not be my first thought. But I'm projecting, and you're not allowed to do that in a court of law. Sandy and Josh Greenberg joining us. These are Ellen's parents. And you can find them on Facebook at Justice for Ellen FB. And at this point, they are broken and
they are writing their own checks out of their life savings to continue investigating their daughter's homicide. You can find them at GoFundMe, Justice for Ellen. Sandy and Josh, thank you for being with us. This case is still not resolved. Still not resolved. I want to ask you, and I don't even know how you can sit there calmly. I admire you, and I'm learning from you every day, every time I'm around you. And I treasure the time that we were together in the flesh. I want to know, before I get into all of these facts, how do you keep going? And remember, a lot of crime victims are going to hear what you have to say right now. Tonight, tell us, how, Sandy, do you keep going?
Well, right now it's 13 and a half years, and we've been up against tons of opposition, but I've never felt so empowered that I really do feel we will have justice for Ellen. And hopefully the things that we've been fighting for will help other crime victims.
Joining us, an all-star panel, and I want to remind everyone in our jurisprudence, no one is guilty until they have gone before a jury of their peers and brought on their own evidence if they so wish and tested the state's evidence, and there is a guilty verdict. No one, no matter what you may think, is guilty in our country unless proven so in a court of law. No one in this case has been named a person of interest. No one has been named a suspect. That said, to Guy DeAndrea joining us, former prosecutor in the office who reviewed the Ellen Greenberg case, now a high-profile lawyer at Laffey, Bucci, DeAndrea, Reich, and Ryan. Guy DeAndrea, thank you for being with us. Now, I'm just looking and listening to the 911 call, and we've got reams of it. My first reaction, if I were to find, let's just say Jackie sitting right here with me in the studio, if I found her stabbed dead, my first reaction would be, oh my stars, she stabbed herself dead. I wouldn't even think that. I call 911 and I would assume she had been murdered, for Pete's sake. But I want to move you from that moment up to the time when you were asked specifically to review the Ellen Greenberg case. After reviewing the file, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. After reviewing the file in full, do you believe Ellen killed herself?
I started looking into this file, Nancy Grace, back in 2015. And of course, I left the office 2 years later, but I have stayed actively involved because I want so desperately for the truth and for the Greenbergs to get justice. And the justice that I look for is truth, right? And so I stayed very actively involved in terms of keeping up with the Greenbergs, with Tom Brennan. And so from 2015 until now, 2024, with everything that has come out, I can definitively say as a former homicide prosecutor that this was not a suicide.
You got a woman dead, stabbed 20 times in the back of the neck, the back of the head, her body covered in bruises. She was making a fruit salad in the middle of making lunch. She had to come home early that day because of a blizzard outside. She called all of her children's parents, first grade teacher, to make sure they all got home okay. Then she started making a fruit salad. This is very probative to me. And I got to think it through, Guy. I got to think it through, what it means. In one hand, she still had a dish rag from making the fruit salad. She, in the middle, holding the dish rag, making the salad, she stabbed herself? No, she was holding that when somebody else stabbed her. And Guy, there's just so much, I can't even get it all out. One of the stabs to the back of the neck was so severe, it actually went through the skin and sliced the dura, D-U-R-A, of her spinal cord. And at best, she would have felt nothing, but most likely would have become incapacitated. That was not the last stab. The last stab had to be in the chest because with her other hand, her right hand, it was still on the knife. Kitchen towel in left hand, knife in the other hand. So does somebody actually want me to believe this girl in the middle of a fruit salad stabbed herself 20 times even after she's incapacitated and then plunges a knife in her own chest, guy? Is that what they want me to believe?
It's not believable. It defies all logic. And the last stab wound, we don't know the order, like you said. The last stab wound was the one to the chest. And now that we know her spinal column was pierced, to your point, not only would she be incapacitated, she would have been rendered immediately incapacitated by that stab wound. And who in the midst of stabbing themselves also takes the knife and smacks themselves on the back of the head because she has a huge blunt force trauma to the back of her head.
A Philly teacher found stabbed to death in her own apartment. Her death ruled a suicide despite stabs in the back of her head.
Thank you all for being here. I'm going through a lot of different information. I'm getting everybody caught up into the different parts of this case. If you're just joining, please start from the beginning. We're going to be moving into different topics of this in the near future, amongst our other shows that we're doing. But we're going to be digging into how did this happen and why was it covered up from the start? And that's going to be our approach from here on out when we do cover this. I don't understand either. But specifically, why was it covered up from the start? And I have a feeling when we get into the backgrounds of some key people, it's going to make sense. Going to make a lot of sense.
Joining me in all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now, but this is not over. Ellen Greenberg did not commit suicide. I would stake anything on it. And this gibberish, this blathering about searching painless ways to commit suicide, well, I can guarantee you, stabbing yourself 20 times is not a painless way to commit suicide. The FBI did a very extensive search of her computers, her laptops, her cell phone, the works, and found no evidence at all of any suicidal searches. As a matter of fact, to Benet Nauer joining us, co-author of What Happened to Ellen. Benet, isn't it true that what was found on her computer were searches of photos, images, and information related to planning a wedding?
That's right, Nancy. And I want to just add, so not only was Ellen preparing food and seeing to her students, she had filled up her car with gas. This was not a person who was ending her life. This was a person who was living her life.
Exactly. This wasn't a person like Micah that was ending her life. This was a person that was living her life. She also stopped and filled up her tank. Please share this out, even in the Micah Miller groups, because this is so similar in so many different ways, regardless of the weapon used and all the other things that are different. It is very, very similar. Very similar. I hope this gets as much attention as Micah got. Seriously. Ellen deserves it. Since 2011, this took place. She deserves it too.
Yes, she had searched for things about her wedding. And her therapist said there was no suicidal ideation. Ellen was not suicidal. There was no evidence whatsoever from anywhere that Ellen was suicidal. None.
And in fact, that
psychiatrist, Dr. Ellen Berman, is very clear in her written records. No suicidal thoughts, manifestations, no verbal discussion of suicide, nothing. At most, she was having anxiety as it relates to the wedding. Now, let me be clear about something. To Josh Greenberg, this is Ellen's dad. She was a daddy's girl. Josh, isn't it true that she, Ellen, and Sam had moved in together into this luxury Venice loft apartments and condos? And she was very, very happy moving forward, ostensibly moving forward with the wedding. But isn't it true, Josh, that prior to her death, she suddenly called home and wanted to move home to Harrisburg? Isn't that true?
Yes. Emphatically, yes. And unexplainable to me.
And Josh, at the time, you gave her some very good advice. You said, listen, if you're anxious about school or you want to transfer schools, finish out the end of the year. Just finish. Don't leave midterm, because that would have been impossible for her to move back home to Harrisburg. And there she is living where they were at Venice Loft.
Or maybe something took place and she didn't want to tell anybody to give them the wrong impression of her fiance that she was about to marry, but she was very scared. Very scared. Oh my gosh, this poor girl.
And a very high, no crime rate, 0 crime rate. I just want to throw that in. So you said, wait it out. And then, of course, then come home if you want to. But don't do it now. Finish the year out. You told her that because you didn't want her, I assume, to get a reputation of leaving in the middle of the school year.
I had two things in my mind. Help my daughter, and I couldn't because I didn't know what was psychologically going on in her mind.
Right.
And I wanted her not to become not hireable, let's call it, for lack of a better term. I care about her health and her job.
You know, Sandy and Josh, I had a similar thing happen. So maybe I'm projecting, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. My first job at a law school, I had, let me just say, to put it euphemistically, a very, very recalcitrant judge that I clerked for. And there were many times that I wanted to quit. And my dad said, don't. You finish that clerkship and then go to the next thing. And I did. I did what he told me to do. I get it. At any time, and she spoke to you guys every day and called her mom multiple times during the day. At any time, did she ever state to you, I want to kill myself? You know, sometimes people say that in jest, but did she ever say anything like that?
No.
No, that never came up. Not even close to it. Home was as far as she wanted to go.
Who is Ellen Greenberg? Listen.
Ellen Greenberg is a first grade teacher in Philadelphia. At 27 years old, she and longtime boyfriend Sam Goldberg have just sent out save the date cards for their upcoming wedding. A blizzard is bearing down on Philadelphia, and school has dismissed everyone early. And on her way home, Ellen stops to fill up her gas tank. Once she's home with her fiance, Sam Goldberg leaves around 4:45 p.m. to work out in the apartment complex gym. When Sam arrives back less than an hour later, the door is locked from the inside.
Okay, the door locked from the inside. Joining me right now, Tom Brennan, private eye consultant with the Greenberg family. He's been on the case from the get-go, extremely loyal. He's standing by the case and the Greenbergs. Tom Brennan, explain to me about what kind of lock that was. It's my understanding it's one like you see a lot of times in a hotel. It's got a swing over, and you swing it over, and you can open the door from the outside about that much, but then it stops it.
Yes, you can. It's called swinging bar lock, and you'll find them in any type of hotel or motel. But in order to disengage or unlock that lock, one or the other piece has to become dismounted. Okay. And one of the first things I looked at was the door. Okay. This is a particle board door, and you can see the damage to it. And down below on the floor in the other photographs, there should have been some particle,
Good morning,
wood
Michael. Good
particles,
afternoon.
and there's one screw missing. That other screw should have been on the floor.
Right.
Well, none of those things came into view. They weren't there. That
It's all so
that
suspicious.
indicated to me that
It's
you know,
bad.
if you would have put your shoulder to that door, one or the other piece would have had to come off. Would have
Yep.
had been dismounted
Yep.
from either the door jamb or the door.
Flown somewhere.
The Pennsylvania State Police sent me to lock school, and I did the surreptitious entries for the department, and I know a lot about locks. And that is not. That's what we refer to as staging. Okay, it's made to look like it was damaged.
And then the 911 call, like I said, we're going through all sorts of different parts. There's been interviews, certain experts discussing it. We're going to be going through all sorts of stuff here. We're also on the next shows coming up here throughout this week. We're going to go through an interview with the family that took place about a week ago. We're going to go through analyzing the 911 call, suspicious as hell. And we're also going to be going through the backgrounds of these investigators and the individuals surrounding the case and why possibly it was covered up. I'm just going to say I feel it was, but it's speculation. But to me, it was covered up from the get-go. So this will be our introductory episode to kind of go through all the different things. We had some breaking news a little bit ago. The family reached a settlement with the city today. And so this is an introductory episode just to catch everybody up. So if you are joining late, please make sure you check out the beginning too as we go through these different parts of the case. And we will be kind of moving on into some of this other stuff as we get into some of these other episodes. Yeah, it was when did it take place? About a couple hours ago. It was probably maybe an hour after we went live when we found out about the breaking news. So yeah, they went through the settlement. We showed the legal representative the interview after the settlement was reached and what he was saying. And so yeah, throughout this episode, like I said, we're bringing you up to the case or bringing you up to all the information, but also any of the updates that we've because there was going to be a trial, but they did reach a settlement. Yep.
What happened to beloved Philly teacher Ellen Greenberg? The Pennsylvania Supreme Court agrees to review the case amidst a controversial.
And this is just like Micah, trust me. Go, from the beginning, you're going to want to go through this. You're going to want to see what we're showing, the photos, the documents, the interviews, all of these different things. This is going to be the introductory episode. So if anybody does come across it and you're like, I've never heard of this one, definitely check out from the beginning as we go through all these different things. This is suspicious as hell. This is there's so many things just like Micah that resemble Micah's case. And this took place in 2011. This is so unfortunate. And we're going to be uncovering some stuff here as we get into the next few shows. So it is important to make sure to check out all this information because the 911 calls, the documents, the interviews, all of these different things are going to play majorly when it comes to everything that we are going to be discussing in these future episodes.
ruling. Forensic pathologist Dr. Wayne K. Ross is commissioned by the Greenbergs to review the case. Dr. Ross says there's evidence of strangulation. Ross says there's a mark over the front of the neck and in the strap muscles over the right side of the neck, claiming these patterns are compatible with a manual strangulation. Ross also points out the number of bruises over different parts of Greenberg's body are consistent with repeated beatings. He writes, "It is my opinion that the investigating authorities should pursue this case as a homicide. It is further my opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that the manner of death is a homicide."
Remember when I told you guys earlier, the family has not even been able to see her journal. This is what I was saying earlier. It probably has a couple instances where he did this to me and he hurt me. He apologized. I hope he gets better. He did this again to me. He apologized. I hope it gets better. You're starting to hear all these different things. Why was this covered up as soon as law enforcement showed up? Showed up already in mind that it was self-unaliving before they even show up to the scene.
The scene findings were indicative of a homicide.
Again,
we're not talking about Jennifer Crumbly. We're talking about Ellen, but thank you. Appreciate it.
joining me, an esteemed medical examiner, Dr. Kendall Crowns, the chief medical examiner of Tarrant County, that's of Fort Worth. Never a lack of business there in that morgue. Lecturer at the Burnett School of Medicine at TCU. Dr. Kendall.
We're going to get into the backgrounds of the investigators coming up. First, we're going to get through the parents' interviews. After that, we're going to get into the investigators' backgrounds and analyzing the 911 call as well. Things are going to make some sense, trust me.
Crowns,
thank you all for being with us. Appreciate you.
Dr. Crowns, the medical examiner, which is another can of worms I want to talk to you about, initially, wait for it, ruled this case a homicide. Initially, Dr. Osborne. Then, after a secret meeting, I can't even find out who was at the meeting.
Right. Can't even find out who was at the meeting. She passed away January 26, 2011. It wasn't changed from a homicide until a self-unaliving until April 4th, 2011, 2.5 months later. And during the first 4 days, while it was still, quote, being looked at as a homicide, they released the apartment. They didn't take any electronic items. This is why I'm showing the Nancy Grace episode. This is from a few months ago because now it's already 14 years. This is from a few months ago, but the reason I'm showing this one is because it's showing you all of these different experts in this introductory episode that we're doing. And this guy right here, he has a lot of interesting things to say when it comes to her injuries.
Meeting, I can't even find out who was at the meeting between police representatives and representatives from your office, DeAndrea, your old office.
Hello.
From the DA's office
and
police.
Did you see him swallow? He knows what's coming. Did you see him swallow?
Meeting, I can't even find out who was
Watch him
at
swallow.
the meeting between police representatives and representatives from your office, DeAndrea, your old office.
Goonk.
From the DA's office.
He's like, and he swallowed 2 hard times too. He knows what's coming. He's like, oh crap. But you know what? Listen to what he says. Even though it's his old office, he's going to tell you.
Office and police go to the medical examiner after he rules homicide. And in that meeting, somehow the ruling was changed to suicide.
April
After he
4th.
ruled it homicide. I'm going to talk to you later about being pressured to change a COD, cause of death ruling. But first, and more important, the substance of this case. I want you to talk to me, if you don't mind, about the strap muscles over the right side of Ellen Greenberg's neck and signs of strangulation. What does that mean?
Signs of strangulation are often bruises about the neck in the area, especially when it's a manual strangulation. So someone grabs you by the neck and are strangling you, or with both hands. Usually your fingernails will dig into the skin. They will leave bruises, semi-lunar type shapes, which is the nails digging in, but you'll get bruises on the neck. And then the strap muscles in the neck are the muscles of the anterior neck, or the front of your neck, that are going along these areas of your neck. And they're often in manual strangulations. You will see hemorrhages in those as well. So when you see bruises on the neck with hemorrhages in the strap muscles, it makes you very suspicious for a manual strangulation. Other things you'll look for is petechiae, or little tiny dot hemorrhages in the eyes as well. Don't always necessarily see those, but again, those are signs of strangulation.
Yes. There's no, like I said, there's no defense wounds from her and this weapon. That means it was either a sneak behind attack or something else took place to incapacitate the person to be able to inflict all of those injuries without somebody having defense wounds. Without somebody having defense wounds.
Hold on. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was trying to drink in every word, but I want to be clear. This forensic pathologist, Dr. Wayne K. Ross, is hired. You know how much money the Greenbergs have spent trying to investigate this and clear their daughter's name? This forensic pathologist says there is evidence of strangulation. There is a mark on the front of the neck and in the strap muscles over the right side of the neck. And I would like to emphasize the word and. It's not just a mark on the front of the neck. That is combined with patterns compatible with manual strangulation by hand, not ligature, on the strap muscles. Could you show me the strap muscles again, Dr. Kendall Crowns?
Certainly. The strap muscles are the muscles that are on the front of your neck, and they all sit here and here. So you'll see anytime in a manual strangulation, the strap muscles will show injury from the hand digging into those muscles.
You stated, Dr. Kendall Crowns, that this could be indicative of strangulation. My question to you is, how else could they get there? If it's not strangulation, who's going to get bruising right here? How does that happen? Pilates?
Well, not Pilates, unless it's aggressive Pilates. I don't know. But you could get a punch.
Have you ever even done Pilates?
I have not. Nor have I done yoga.
Then you know what aggressive Pilates are you even talking about? I've done Pilates. It was painful, but nothing touched my neck. I can guarantee you that.
Understood. But so I don't think it's Pilates. I do think it could be strangulation. It could be a punch to the neck, especially with all these stab wounds that you have involved. It could be a form of control as well. Other stabbing.
You're the last person I want to argue with because I know I'm in over my head. But how could a punch to the neck end up in bruising on the strap muscles? That would be 2 marks. It didn't say strap muscle. It said muscle. So how could one punch result in multiple bruising?
Well, your assumption of one punch was going to bruise one side, but you could punch multiple times. It is a stabbing. It's a melee type situation, so a lot could be going on. Now, strangulation makes more sense, but you did ask, could something else cause it? Yes, blunt force injuries, multiple strikes to the neck could cause that as well.
Okay, Dr. Kendall Crowns, if she received, let's just pretend that theory is true for a moment. If she received punches to the neck, would those be the bruises that you would expect to see?
Not likely. The bruising that I've seen in the pictures looks more consistent with a manual strangulation than anything else.
And very quickly, let me follow up with Tom Brennan. In the original medical examiner's report, did he, Osborne, notice the bruises to the neck?
There's no indication in the autopsy report that states that. The only
So that was
time
completely ignored and would have indicated strangulation.
No, the only time the neck was addressed was when Dr. Wayne Ross and I were reviewing the autopsy photos, and in the autopsy photos, we found the damage to the neck and the indication that there were some. It looked like a nail mark on the right side of the neck.
A nail mark? Ellen Greenberg had a fingernail mark on her neck. Okay, Brennan, this is a yes/no lightning round. Are you sure that you and the pathologist?
A yes/no lightning round. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Oh, Michael. This is one of the things, like, when it comes to like how busy I am, it's great when it's like, yes, we're like getting through this conversation. Bam, 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 bam. I listen, it would be amazing to sit back. I would love to, because I'm the same. Like, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Kabam, 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 kabam. Yeah, let's get to it. Let's knock out as much as we could knock out in 45 minutes, let's go. This is lightning round. I love it. Lightning round.
That you and the pathologist saw a nail mark, NAIL mark.
Yes, we took a photograph of it.
Okay. Dr. Kendall Crowns, I knew there was bruising to the neck, did not know there was a fingernail mark. Does that change your assumption about aggressive Pilates or a punch to the neck?
So yeah, some nail marks again would be from digging the hand in. They leave these kind of semi-lunar marks. That would be a manual strangulation.
Straight back to Guy DeAndrea, former prosecutor in the office who personally reviewed, combed through with a fine-tooth comb the Ellen Greenberg file. Now lawyer at Leafy, Bucci, DeAndrea, Reich, and Ryan. Guy, I feel sick. This is the same feeling I would have in court, talking to the medical examiner and hearing the evidence, and then look over at the defendant and they would be claiming some crazy thing. Weigh in. I mean, don't you just want to jump out of your skin hearing all this?
Absolutely, Nancy. And in reviewing the medical examiner's report, I had so many issues once I dug in and investigated, and now learning everything I'm learning, up to this point, it's baffling to me. And one of the things, that I've always struggled with, and I know you know this fact, but in the medical examiner's report, there's talk of a neuropathologist, Dr. Rourke, doing the neuropathological examination. That never happened. I discovered that never happened. So why is it in the medical examiner's report as a fact?
Okay, I'm going to try to make this quick. I'm going to call in Benet Nauer. Don't take the camera off of DeAndrea. With me, Benet Nauer, who together we're writing What Happened to Ellen. Benet, we have gone over and over and over Dr. Rourke Adams, who Osborne, the medical examiner, says, yeah, I brought her in on this because she's a neuro brain neck pathologist. And I wanted her to look at the dura, that part of Ellen's spine that was nicked. Nothing. And then, isn't it true, Benet Nauer, that Dr. Rourke Adams doesn't remember this ever happening? And she didn't put in her notes. She didn't put her day timer. And her practice was to always bill. I mean, the woman's got to make a living. She didn't submit a bill. There's no record this ever happened. And Rourke Adams says, I have no recollection of that ever happening. Isn't that true, Benet Nauer?
That is absolutely true. Tragically and infuriatingly, this is just one of the many things in this case that makes no sense, that defies logic, that defies authenticity, that defies how everything is handled in these cases. I want to just say something about the nail mark. Joseph Scott Morgan, in his investigation for you, talked about the nail mark within the bruising, and what he said, this is a quote, what we see in a classic strangulation are these classic nail marks, like a rake moving through the skin. This indicates a struggle.
Guy DeAndrea, when you saw and you believed in your heart of hearts that this is not a suicide, did you tell anybody in the DA's office?
I did. And my superiors, who were, at least my immediate superior, was very supportive of me doing the investigation. And she asked, what do I want to do? And at the time, I didn't know that I was going to leave to join private practice, but we were just going to wait for the independent neuropathological autopsy that was going to be performed on that piece of the spinal column. And then I was under the impression that, I mean, I even think if I had stayed, sadly, that this would have been changed back in 2017. That is what was being indicated to me, not just by my office, but also by the medical examiner's office, meaning at a minimum, it's going to be undetermined, but potentially, depending on what the neuropath says, homicide. And that was 7 years ago.
To John Lucy joining us from Penn Live and the Patriot News of Harrisburg, who's been on the case from the very beginning. Response? How can this stand? How can we stand for this?
Well, unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, medical examiners and coroners have a wide discretion in determining the manner of death. And that's the crux of the court case that is now before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania to change that. That's the odyssey that the Greenbergs have been on, spending at last count $700,000 of their own money to get to this doorstep of justice.
And then there is the secret meeting. And I just want to throw out there, and anybody on the panel that knows about this, jump in. Please, we need everybody in the brain trust jumping in. Then there is the secret meeting with the medical examiner. He determined this to be a homicide, obviously. Then there's a secret meeting with police and DAs. And suddenly, the ruling is changed to Tom Brennan, PI consultant for the Greenberg family.
Yes.
What happened? And is it true a female district attorney that was in that meeting has been given immunity? You do that when you're looking at a criminal charge.
Yes, she's been given what they call high immunity, because we were going to name her in the suit. So she's been given high immunity, and we couldn't name her as one of the defendants in the lawsuit.
Wow, hold on a minute. Sorry, I was on mute this whole time. I thought I was talking to y'all. Who got immunity again?
PI consultant for the Greenberg family.
Yes.
What happened? And
Who
is
got
it true
immunity?
a female district attorney that was in that meeting has been given immunity? You do that when you're looking at a criminal charge.
Right.
Yes, she's been given what they call high immunity, because we were going to name her in the suit. So she's been given high immunity, and we couldn't name her as one of the defendants in the lawsuit.
I'm not asking you her name, but do you know her name?
Yes.
Guy DeAndrea, help me.
Wow.
I don't understand it. And I don't understand why this is not being changed. It's so obvious. You told the district attorney's office this is wrong, and nobody did anything and still haven't done anything. Why?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, ultimately, though, it's the medical examiners who have to change it. Sadly, the DA's office would have no authority to do that. And unless the medical examiner's office changes it, I mean, you know this as the prosecutor, how do you prosecute a homicide when it's ruled a suicide, right? And I asked if you want me to tell you about that meeting, about why it was changed from homicide to suicide.
Yes,
I asked them.
tell me.
Yeah. They told me that the assigned detective went to them and said this would be an impossibility to be a homicide, because the door was an old-fashioned deadbolt that locked into the frame. Like, if I grew up in a house like that, and if you can't breach that door, and if you do breach it, you're taking the whole door off the hinges. And so that's what he convinced the medical examiner. Now, when I debunked that, they had a million other excuses as to why it wasn't a homicide. But that was the answer, the singular answer that was disprovable by looking at a single photograph, right? And so right from the jump, I knew there was something off here.
How did you debunk the theory about the door?
Yeah, so I looked at the photographs and I said, wait a second, why is this? This is not a deadbolt by any stretch of anyone's imagination. How is it that if you breach this door, either one of those pieces isn't on the ground? But putting that aside, I said to the medical examiner, not to be silly, but Google it. You can Google this right now on YouTube and find out that you can use a hanger, a stick of gum, slam the door too hard, use a ruler, do all sorts of things to either lock or unlock this door from the outside. So don't tell me that no one could have gotten in or gotten out if this thing is latched. So if that's the reason that this was moved or changed from a homicide to a suicide, nonsense, change it back. Because I just told you that is, yeah.
Wow.
Guy, I wrote a book, Don't Be a Victim. And part of it is about traveling and how to keep yourself safe in a hotel room. We actually did the experiment on a door like that.
Wow.
It's not impenetrable, okay?
No.
By far.
Yeah.
If I can do it, anybody can do it. Guy DeAndrea, how do you feel speaking out against the medical examiner's ruling? Because you're up against a lot of opposition. I mean, this goes all the way up to Shapiro, because he is the one that said HELLNO. I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
It was his duty to touch it.
Yeah, and Nancy, I've always prided myself, and I mean this, and not to be sappy, but on justice, and what it means to me is the truth. And if the truth, which it's not, but if the truth is suicide, then it's suicide, but do it the right way. But the truth is what justice is.
What's up,
and
Mike?
when people are looking, how can anyone with a straight face now in 2024, quite frankly, it should have been a long time ago, but in 2024, with
2011
all of this
when this
evidence,
happened.
actual evidence, how can anyone comfortably sleep knowing that they've said this is a suicide? It's inexplainable. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable.
Right.
The evidence is clear, and I do not understand why it's taking the Greenbergs to fight tooth and nail, the fortitude they have to keep this fight going just for justice, the truth to be told.
If you know or think you know what happened in this case, if you
crazy.
lived in the building, if you observed anything, please call 1-800-472-8477. Repeat, 1-800-472-8477.
And I'm going to leave that tip line up there as we exit this first show. Like I said, we're going to be having some more on top of the other cases that we're discussing. We're going to be digging more into it on the next episode. This was introductory, so if you just joined, please check out from the beginning. We went through all the different information, the breaking news that came out. Family reached a settlement. Certain people aren't being named. But like I said, the next episode, we're going to get into the family's interview from a week ago. We're going to get into some more of the documents. We're going to get into the background of the individuals investigating it. We're going to get into more interviews, more evidence, and then we're going to analyze that 911 call as well. So we'll be having those coming up here throughout the week amongst the other shows that we do. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it very much. Please do me a favor. Share this out to your socials because this case does not get that much attention. And Ellen deserves it too. So many similarities to Micah. And you're going to see that as we get into these other shows coming up. Thank you all. Appreciate you. Love you. It's nice spending time with you this morning. I'm not sure what we're going to do this evening. Not sure if we're having a show. I think we will. But I'm going to double check with everything. And it might be a lounge night too. I'm not sure. But we'll definitely be here somewhere, either over here or over at the lounge. So if you're bored tonight, you want to see if we're hanging out, there's the link. You can go click on that right there. CJ's Lounge on YouTube. And we might just chill back. We'll see, though. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a peaceful, positive day, and stay safe. And tell all your loved ones that you love them. And if you can hug them, hug them. I love you guys.
First time out.